All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Happy 2025. Happy New Year. We're excited to re-engage with Cliff Karthauser on our monthly best practices sessions. We are planning to continue these into the new year. And so, I just encourage you guys, it's always the second Wednesday at 12 o'clock. I know with my team, try to do a little bit better job of getting these on your calendar so that you don't miss them and you can plan for them. It is a significant investment that both Rick and myself are making in these sessions. So we appreciate your engagement. We'd encourage you, anybody else that you think might benefit from these sessions, please bring them in. We'd love to have a 100+ agents on these as we kind of push forward. Today's session, though, is the second of a two-part series that Cliff started in December, entitled Building Your Personal Brand with Authority and with Influence. And I think, as I said in December, this is a very pertinent topic, especially as we approach the end of the OEP season and we begin to pivot into not just using leads and live transfers, but trying to figure out how do we grow our businesses organically in the communities that we live and we serve clients in. I feel like I had a meeting with a bunch of new agents on my team yesterday and just talking about, pivoting our mind a little bit to say, what are we going to do, to continue to grow organically? I look at the communities that we serve and the enormous amount of business. I'm not sure what your territory was last year, Rick, but I know we ran some numbers at the end of the 2023 OEP season. And I know for my area in Northern Indiana and Western Michigan, Health Markets agents actually did and executed less than 1% of the total ACA enrollments that happened in our geography. And so I start thinking more and more about what is this opportunity? I mean, we are literally just scratching the surface, not on a national basis. I mean, we are on a national basis, but in the small communities that we serve. And so I think we all have to start figuring out, how do we get involved in BNI groups? How do we leverage storefronts? How do we engage with local chambers of commerce and financial planners and CPAs and attorneys? And how do we, build this personal brand alongside the corporate health markets brand? So I know that's what Cliff is focusing on today. I'll shut up and turn things over to Cliff here for the rest of the hour. But Cliff, thanks for being with us. The floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Silas, to you. Thanks to Rick for our continued partnership in this, and welcome. Happy New Year. It's crazy. Here we are, January 8th. I think it's says a lot about me getting older because the years just seem to fly by so much quicker. But hopefully y'all had a successful, I know there's a few things that you're wrapping up during your open enrollment, but hopefully y'all had a really, really successful open enrollment period, touched a lot of lives. I'm going to share with you real quickly a quick commercial about what's to come February 12th. And as Silas said, we host these the second Wednesday of every month, kind of a lunch and learn from 12 to 1. And so you have to eat lunch anyway, so you might as well dial into to our session. So February 12th, the session's going to be how to raise your standards to get out of your business and life what you want. And so the one thing that's so important to measure is how are you around your standards? Because your standards shape everything. And I'm gonna unpack 4 different levels as it relates to the standards that you should have as you run your business. So that's to come in February. A couple things I want to just recap from a month ago. And we talked about the brand. The personal brand is so critically important because people buy you. They certainly buy Health Markets, United Healthcare. That's great. You have a very recognizable national corporate brand, but that's less important than the relationship that you build with them in your local communities, or maybe in a virtual meeting or over the phone. I know some of you conduct business across many, many states, but they're buying into you first and foremost. If they don't trust you and believe in you and feel you can satisfy what it is they need, they're going to go somewhere else. It doesn't matter what that corporate brand looks like. So last month, we talked a little bit about the single most valuable benefit to becoming an authority. And what is that? Well, it accelerates the speed of trust you have with that prospect. It shortens that sales cycle. It literally accelerates the speed of trust. And so why is your personal brand so important? Because think about it, in our current digital environment, the first impression many, many times that your prospect or people have of you and your brand It's not going to happen in person. It's not going to happen over the phone. It's not going to happen in a virtual meeting. It's going to happen online, via page one of Google or your website or LinkedIn. A lot of people are going to check you out many, many times before they even meet you. So by definition, what is branding? Branding is creating an image. So think about your brand as creating an image in the mind of your audience. And so businesses or people that we've never heard of, they don't have a brand with us. We don't haven't, if I haven't heard of someone or a particular brand, there's no image that I even have in my mind. There's no image that's been created. So hopefully you have the participants guide from a month ago. We're going to cover number 5 through 8. Number 5 is adopting a media mindset to grow your business. And I'm going to share with you the difference between a marketing mindset and a media mindset. So when it comes to lead generation, there's 3 audiences that we want to think about. And that first audience is your customers. That second audience is your prospects. And that third audience is your suspects. So let's kind of unpack these three audiences. Customers. Well, this includes all of your existing customers, but beyond that, it includes, and Silas mentioned, your strategic partners, your centers of influence. It includes all of those people. That group is people that are spending money with you or they're helping you grow your business. That second group or that second audience is your prospects. And so this includes people in your email. They may be in your newsletter that you send out. If you send out a newsletter, they have not yet decided to spend money with you, but they're paying attention. So the people in that prospect audience, they're looking, they're paying attention, they're aware of you. And then that third group is your suspects. Well, who does that group include? It includes everyone who has no idea who you are, but they could benefit from a product or service that you offer. That's a massive, Silas, the penetration. It's a massive, massive group of people. That suspect audience, they've never heard of you. They don't know anything about you, but that suspect audience group could benefit from a product or a service that you have to offer. Now, most marketing and advertising, what does it focus on? It focuses on reaching as many people in that suspect audience group as possible, and then trying to immediately convert them to the customer group. People who will buy something from you today, or they'll sign up for an appointment. And so just think about that. That's so when we think about marketing, we're trying to convert that suspect audience who have never heard of you or know anything about you, and we're trying to reach them and convert them into that customer group. The reality is, in today's skeptical landscape, few people are ready after that very first brand impression to take that large a jump and buy something from you today. And I think that's so true, and we get that wrong so many times. And so when we have a marketing mindset, we want to convert this huge group of suspects into a customer very, very quickly. And yet that suspect has never heard of us or who we are. So when you reach people in your suspect audience, that massive group of people, there are basically 3 things that can happen. And I don't have your handout in front of me, so I don't know what all's in there, but there's 3 things that can happen. Number 1, now we're going that suspect group of people. The ocean is wide and deep with those people. A tiny percentage of that suspect audience are ready to buy immediately. And typically that's less than 1%. Less than 1%. Now, that second group, a small percentage, they're intrigued. They're intrigued and they want to learn more. So you got their attention. They're intrigued. They want to learn more, but they're not yet sure if you're the right person or product or service for the need that they particular have. But you've sparked an interest. They're intrigued. They want to learn more. And then that third group, a large percentage have no interest at all. They have no interest at all. And so when you have a marketing mindset with your promotion, you're only set up to convert that first category, people ready to buy now. And so that kind of approach, if we think about that, and I'm going to open it up for some discussion here in a second, but that kind of an approach, what does it focus on? It focuses on generating impressions and turning them into immediate purchases or inquiries for more information. And that's only going to provide value to that tiny percentage of people who are immediately ready to buy something today. And so we're trying to convert through our marketing efforts all of these suspects out there that really don't know us or what we do. We're trying to convert that large group of people into people that are ready to buy something today. And so for years, marketing has been about immediate conversions. X number of cold calls to Y number of leads. X number of leads leads to Y number of sales. And so the limiting factor on those traditional lead generation tactics is that they only allow us to convert those people who you happen to get lucky enough to reach the right day when they were ready to buy. And that's really a pretty small percentage of people. Now, open enrollment may be different, and it probably is because it's a finite period of time when people have to take action. So that may be a little bit different, and we could talk about that. And because a lot of those people, they're ready to make a change or they're ready to buy. Maybe they've turned 65. But the limiting factor on most traditional lead generation tactics is that it only allows you to convert the people you happen to just get lucky enough to touch on the minute that they were thinking about buying a product or service. That's a very, very small percentage of people. And so as a result, you had no opportunity to nurture that additional group of people who you reached, who maybe have some interest. They want to learn more, but they're not ready to convert today. They're not ready to buy today. And so with that approach, what happens is as a result, there's only a fraction of the value that we get from the money that we're spending on our lead generation efforts. And so what do we want to we want to get people that are intrigued in that prospect group and convert as many of those people into customers. So I'm going to stop there and just open it up for a question or a comment. But I'm going to share with you as we walk through today the difference between having a marketing mindset and a media mindset, because there is a big difference. Silas, you want to open it up? Anybody have a thought or a question or a comment? Don't be bashful.
I would just say that I do think when I work with a lot of new agents, especially getting started in the business, there's that idea of investing in leads where somebody else is trying to plot people in front of you, or this whole idea of building your brand and building your local image. And those are two uniquely different things. I do think the second is a little bit of a slower burn, although there are things you can do to accelerate it. But I do think once you get to the point, when I look at all of our veterans, I mean, all the tier 4 agents on my team, they're not working leads anymore. They've got people who are being referred to them by centers of influence, financial planners, and people that are willing, and these are people that have just a different level of context as to who they are, what they do, and they're willing to wait in line, sometimes days, if not weeks, to see them and get into their schedule. So that is a very different thing. And I always think, Cliff, that's one of the biggest dilemmas I think we deal with getting new agents up and running is how do you build that brand? Because that's not oftentimes, it's not something that happens quickly. And how do we leverage, live transfers and leads in the beginning to give them the activity that they need till they can get to the point that they have that. I think eventually everybody gets to, or hopefully everybody gets to that point where they're not lead reliant, but there is That's always one of the things we battled with a little bit is what's the right mix there too?
And that's a great point. And I think the mindset we have to create around that is we have to create a mindset around that day one. And so if you're brand new or you're in your first few months, you will be dependent on leads. And there's nothing wrong with that. Live transfers, what can you do to get people to get yourself in front of people? And so the lead generation is going to be critically important early on, but to also adopt the mindset that you're going to build a practice based on referability and advocacy in tandem. So you start that process and you create a mindset around that day one, but understand for a while, you're going to have to use live transfers and take advantage of all the lead opportunities that are there. But if you don't over time move towards referred lead prospecting and building advocacy, you're going to just reinvent the same, you're going to repeat the same year over and over because you'll become dependent and there's no other way to do it. And I see so many people in call centers that are dependent on the leads and they're just churning and burning. And you can't build, none of you want to build a business that way long term. I don't think. And so when you think about marketing versus media mindset, by contrast, a media mindset focuses also, not instead, because you're still converting those ready to buy, but a media mindset focuses uh, on extending that interaction with your prospect audience by doing what? By providing mutually beneficial way for them to learn more. And so not everybody's going to be ready to buy the first time you ping on them, but they're interested. They want to learn more. And so by nurturing that, you provide a mutually beneficial way to nurture for them to learn more. And what does that give you a chance to do? It gives you a chance to nurture that contact and build influence with them over time, because not everybody's going to buy from you today. And so we have to nurture those relationships. And the three-step process, purchase process in today's the media versus marketing landscape is awareness, attention, and affinity. And so let's talk about awareness. Awareness, well, when does awareness happen? It happens when you first make an impression on someone. Now they're aware of who you are and they're aware of what you do. So that's the start. They have to become aware of you, who you are, what you do. That's the beginning. Then attention, based on that first impression, they've created an image in their mind. Once they become aware of who you are and what you do, and their broader interest then in what you can offer them. When you do that, then you have the potential to move them to that next phase, which is now you've got their attention. It has to start with awareness. Now you have their attention, and ultimately what you want is affinity. Once you have their attention, what do you want? Then you have an opportunity to build that affinity with them over time. Affinity is compatibility and rapport. Because again, not everybody's going to be ready to buy today. And so again, that three-step purchase process in today's media landscape is awareness, attention, and affinity. And this is totally different than turning on your phone and accepting a live transfer. You have no idea who they are, what they need. And I know early on we've got to do all of these things. And so I want to talk a little bit about just your personal newsletter and how that relates to content marketing. Think about your content marketing as your personal newspaper. So think about it as literally your personal newspaper. And so there are some content marketing mistakes that we make sometimes. And one is sporadic delivery. And so think about this. If you're delivering your content sporadically, and think about, again, your content marketing as your personal newspaper. Well, would you subscribe? Would any of us subscribe to a newspaper when we had no idea when it's being delivered? Probably not. So one of the mistakes is just sporadic in our delivery. Another one is ad heavy. So again, when you think about your content marketing, uh, what happens is many times we oversaturate our newsletter or our newspaper, our content marketing with too many promotional posts. And so you just want to be careful. Don't put too much promotional stuff in your personal newsletter or your newspaper. And number three, op-eds, opinion editorials. And so filling your newspaper or your newsletter with op-ed content, and what does that mean? It means all of the content is from your perspective. And if you're already a household name and people view you as an expert, that's okay because you've already established that expertise and you're viewed that way. But with the majority of your prospects, you're still building this. They don't view you yet as an opinion expert uh, in your field. You're building that. You have all of these prospects and you're building that. So what do you want to do? The best way to approach content marketing with the majority of your people is to invite as many people as possible to help you with this. There are subject matter experts within your own company. There are articles that you can draw from. There are short videos. There's informative information that you can post. And there's outside industry content that you can pull from. And so again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with op-ed, having an opinion editorial, if you've already established credibility with your audience. They already view you as an expert. So for example, Ronnie, she's got a huge practice. And so a lot of her people already view her as an expert in her field. So she can get away with doing more of that. But if you're building that with your prospect group, drawing on the content of other people, third party, your own company, articles, short videos, I think that's the way you want to do that. And so when you think about lead generation, because leads are critically important for you to be successful in your business. Well, when you think about lead generation, which is more important to the success? Leads or sales? Well, the answer is they both are. You have to conquer both to grow. And so that first hurdle of growth is generating leads for your business. We have to do that. We have to get ourselves in front of as many prospects as possible. And once you clear that hurdle, then what? We've cleared that hurdle of lead generation successfully. You now have to convince as many of those leads as possible to buy from you. They're in tandem. They're hand in glove. And so a key question there is, are you approaching lead generation with a marketing mindset or a media mindset? Again, a marketing mindset is a dated way to look at lead generation that basically looks at one conversation. How many prospects did you create an impression with, and how many of those prospects immediately raised their hand and said, I'm ready to buy today, or I want more information? The reality is this: most prospects aren't ready to buy the first time they learn about you. I, I could have that wrong. I don't think I do. But if we think about it, most prospects, now open enrollment may be a little different because it's a finite period. You're tapping on all of your customers. You're talking to them about their Medicare sup, maybe to move to a Medicare Advantage. That could be a little different, but most prospects, generally speaking, aren't ready to buy the first time they learn about you. I'd love somebody's opinion on that. Do you think that's true? I think it's true, but you're in the trenches every day.
I
Ronnie,
don't, I don't know that I agree with that. I feel like if people come in to see me and they're talking about Medicare, then they're here to do business. I mean, if they have a part A and B date set, then I believe they're here to get their solution and get it done.
and so most of those people that would come in to see you they more than likely didn't just walk in off the street. They were maybe referred to you by one.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so that's a little bit different. But when you look at that massive group of people out there, that huge audience of people that may not be aware, they don't really understand what we do, are it, and I could have that wrong. Because I love the your comment on that, Ronnie. Um,
Cliff, I have a comment on that as well. I think because we have all the tools in our bag that are probably our first call, one call close rate as a company would necessarily be considerably higher. But I definitely agree with you that if they come in and they know who you are, they've seen you, the layered marketing has worked. That just adds to that before they walk in the door and makes it much easier.
yeah, because I think for people,
It's a mindset. Like if our expectation is most people don't finalize the first time they come in, then they're not going to finalize the first time they come in. But
Yeah.
if they come in and they're ready to go, I'm assuming they're here to see me because they want me to help them solve their problem, and I'm going to solve their problem. I'm going to take them off the street.
yeah. And would you say, because this is great commentary, would you say most of those appointments result when they're coming in, maybe they were referred by a strategic partner, a COI, an existing customer? I would guess that most of those appointments result in a sale during that, or at least hopefully during that meeting, during that time that they came in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say that I mean, they have to have Medicare A and B ready, obviously, but if they're prepared like that way, then absolutely, yes. I think the majority do finish at the first close. I will say under 65, not as likely as Medicare, but my expectation is I'm not doing 2 appointments for it. We set time apart, they're ready to go, they came in seeking a solution. We're going to give them one and we're going to wrap it up. That's
Yeah.
my expectation.
I would like to have a thought on this as well. For anybody, does open enrollment, does that period of time look and feel different than the other 10 months of the year in terms of the 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 intensity of getting this done today? I've got a problem. I know you can help me solve this. So does that period of time look different, generally speaking, than how you run your practices the rest of the year?
Again, Cliff, I would say that is part of that mindset. Um, is it different as far as the speed and the number of people and all of that? Yes. But I think if you attack the entire year as Ronnie has described, you're here, I'm here, I have everything in the market. So let's find a solution. And once we do, let's get this done. I think if you have that mindset, you're going to find more often than not, both under and over, that, they're there to do business and so are you.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, Cliff, too,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that, in our business today, we have, almost everybody has a deadline. If it's if it's health insurance or Medicare, they have a deadline, no matter what time of year it is, right? If they lost coverage, they got an SEP deadline.
Right.
If they're, they are, so, and that's uniquely different from when I started in 2001, when people could buy insurance whenever they wanted and people were running without and would just buy it on a whim mid-year. Like, I think it was probably, some of this commentary was more accurate in that type of a scenario and situation than it is today. Today, I think that's one of the beauties of the business we're in, is people come in under a deadline. So they have to do something or they're going to miss out, which is uniquely different from how it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
I try to run back to back when it's not enrollment as much as I do when it's enrollment. I'd rather work a fully busy day and have a full day off than give myself an appointment here, some time off here. So that makes my intensity on that appointment the same as it is during open enrollment. Clearly, it's not as many hours or as many days of the week, but I'm still running back to back. My time is still valuable. And I think that that's a mindset, even if you're not that busy, if you're just, if you go into it like, yeah, most people 2 call close, or I've got time now, I'm not as busy, it's okay. You're creating that problem for yourself. You
Sure.
first have to, in your own mindset, know that your time is valuable, and you can earn your golfing on, well, not in the Midwest on Fridays, but simulator golf or something. But you've earned your Friday off if you've worked a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday back to back. I mean, that's how my admins are booking my day, is back to
Sure.
back. I don't want time to sit around and piddle away time.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, that's why you're so successful, because, it's all about converting our leads. However, we're getting those leads, referrals, leads, cold leads, buying leads, Facebook, whatever the case is, converting leads into customers is what makes a successful business. But in today's landscape, conversion is much more about positioning. How are you positioning yourself in your market? uh, than it is necessarily prospecting. Positioning is so important. Do you have influence when they and credibility when they come in to see you? And so when you're building a business based on referability and advocacy, you're already positioned well in the minds of that prospect when they hit your office, when they come into your storefront, or when you connect with them in a virtual meeting or whatever, because your influence and your credibility is coming from the person that referred you. And so that's so critically important. And so the way your prospects view you is one of the most important influencers on whether or not they're going to do what. Well, they're going to purchase, on whether or not they're going to purchase, on whether or not they're going to refer, on whether or not they're going to stay as your customer. And so how can you influence the positioning? Because I think there's some things that you can do to influence the position you have with your prospects and with your customers. And I think I bullet pointed out a few of them in the outline. One is just your content marketing. And so early on, we're not thinking about a lot of these things. You're new into the business and you're just getting started and you're getting your licenses, and now you're trying to do everything you can to make some sales, and where are my leads going to come from? All of those things. But as you grow in your business, your content marketing is so important. The articles that you write, or articles that you're featured in, as you continue to grow and build your business. Speaking at events in your community, workshops or seminars that you can conduct. All of these things will help you build influence and help you position yourself as that expert, or someone that has that credibility. And I know within your territories, you do a really, really good job of working a geographical market for the most part. I know some of you are probably licensed in many, many states, but I think you do as well or better than any other territory in going deep within your geographical markets. Rick, would you say that's a pretty fair statement?
I would say for many, that's the goal. I think that's probably key. Again, we have a lot of veteran agents on this call. We also have a lot of new agents. So I think those that are new, please listen to that, because I think you're exactly right. There's, as Silas started this off with, 1% of the ACA sales in the market. That means there's a lot of other ACA sales out there right there in your backyard. And you don't have to go halfway across the country to do that. It's right there. So
Yeah.
I think he hit that right on the head.
Few words, when we're working with someone, somebody comes in, few words are better to hear early in that conversation with that new prospect than "I was referred by so-and-so." It changes the sales dynamic immediately because of the level of trust that's already in place. So when somebody comes into Mike Felice's office and they say, Mike, I was referred by so-and-so, and that's one of your best customers, there's already a sales dynamic that's been created, and a level of trust that's been created that's already in place because of that. It's really validation, right? That customer or that COI, they're impressed enough with what you did, the experience, with your product, with your service, with the experience you gave them, that they're talking about you and what you do with other people. I mean, how powerful is that? I mean, that's huge. I don't know if you have a thought on that, Mike, or not, but I think that's so critically important.
That's those are the words you want to hear is so and so referred. And as agents are growing their business, they'll hear those words more and more often. And I tell the new agents all the time, and I use a new agent. I also use Ronnie as examples. When you're looking at referrals, I mean, as a new agent, you're starting with zero. Okay, as far as like your current customers referring you. As your business grows, I look at it as growing a pile. The bigger your pile gets, the more referrals you get. So you can look at like Steven's pile versus Ronnie's pile. Ronnie has more clients, not taking anything away from you, Steven, but so Ronnie's chance of getting more referrals is higher because of the amount of clients that she has. So I think obviously we need to use marketing and content marketing and things like that to nourish our current clients to get us through referrals.
Yeah, that's those are great comments. And
And the marketing that you do also helps with the referrals, because I've heard so many times, yeah, so and so referred you, but I also saw you in Valpak. I saw you in the newspaper. I go to the rec center. I saw your face there and everything. So everything that you're doing out there aids in the referrals that are coming to you as well.
yeah, those are all impressions. Those are all impressions that we can make, brand impressions that we can make with that prospect group. And even that suspect group, people right now that don't know you, they've never heard of you, what you do. There's opportunities, the more you do, to make those brand impressions. And we need to be working on that as much as we possibly can. And there's, why do people refer? Well, there's two primary reasons. Because you want to grow over time, you want to grow your practice based on referability. The more referrals, it shortens the sales cycle. You've got credibility. The more you can build a practice based on referability and advocacy, the better. And so when you look at why would someone refer, why do people refer our products or services? Well, one reason is they believe that the products and services you have to offer will benefit them or will benefit that person they're referring you to, and they're willing to stand behind that because of the experience you gave them, the experience they had in working with you. And also they genuinely care about the person they're referring you to. That's one of the primary reasons why people refer. The second reason is our ability to refer others to that product or that service or to you as an agent is something that makes us feel good. It makes the referrer feel good. So when we're referring, it makes us feel good. But the biggest reason, in my opinion, that people refer a product or service is because of the experience you gave them. And also they genuinely care about someone else, and they know that putting that person in front of you will benefit that individual greatly. Again, because of the experience they had in doing business with you. And over time, you can all do this. You can all build a practice. So it's so important to have clarity around where the referral's coming from. And I'm going to have Silas comment on this in a minute because I know he does this. It's so important to know where the referrals are coming from. And so what happens is many times we make the mistake of focusing our referral efforts and our marketing efforts only on customers and clients, which limits our reach. It limits our reach. And so what you want to do is you want to build 3 key categories when it comes to referred lead prospecting. And so you want to build those 3 key categories into your referred lead approach. One is customers. That's one category. And that may be your biggest opportunity. But a second category is referral partners, strategic partners, centers of influence. And that third category is influencers. There's so many influencers out there today. because of social media and everything. And so those are people that typically, those are individuals who benefit from referring you. So think of they have it guides influencers guide the actions of other people. And like the word influence, they have influence. And so those three categories are so important. And so if you don't currently track or have a way to track the sources of your referrals, you need to create one. And you can start with something as simple as an Excel document with 3 tabs, one for each category of referral, one for each category. So once you have a clear view of who is referring you right now, what do you want to do? Well, the next step then is to think about how you can better empower them to refer you more often in the future. And one of the most effective ways to empower each group is to involve them in your content marketing efforts. And again, examples could include you feature them in an article. You do an interview series with someone that has influence. So you can run a short interview series with that particular individual. Maybe it's an attorney, a bank trust officer, a CPA, a property casualty agent. You can create high quality content organically that your referral relationships that they want to share with their friends and contacts on social media. So you're creating the content organically and you're giving it to them to share with their contacts, with their friends, with their contacts via social media. And then short video clips. I'm going to stop there. Saddles, I'd like, because this is probably a year ago, you and I were having a conversation and you actually sent me your Excel, or you sent me a document that detailed out every month the number of referrals that are coming in and the source of where they were coming from. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so we started doing that probably a decade ago, just really tracking where referrals are coming from. I wanted to build a referral practice, and I think you got to track it first. So we have a very simple document, and I'm very liberal about what I call a referral. If it was referred to us and not a lead, we're calling it a referral, right? And many of these referrals are coming from financial planners, from CPAs, from property and casualty insurance agents, from HR professionals. And so we've really worked hard to build this. And so I have, in addition to the tracking it, I'm also then keeping a list of who my centers of influence are. I call it my COI list. And these are all these people that are in positions where they could refer business to us, whether they are or not. And so we do a lot to communicate with them. I just sent a Christmas card to every single one of them this year. That's one, I think we sent out 1,500 Christmas cards here over the holidays. It's a labor intensive process, but I have some staff that helps me with that. I think that's gone a long way when they see your family and your kids and they realize you're a real person. So that's been tremendous. We also, during the early fourth quarter, we'd never done this before, but I connected with one of the gentlemen who's in charge of our region for Edward Jones. And we actually did an educational event and we invited him in for lunch. I paid for everything. We ended up having almost 40 Edward Jones advisors come and attend that event. We did it at kind of a high-end restaurant within a meeting room. I did an hour presentation on the ACA, helped them understand how subsidies work. I mean, these guys had no clue, what it looks like to help people intentionally manage their adjusted gross income later in life. Taught them some strategies and things they could do to claim more subsidies. And then the second hour after lunch was basically a Medicare 101 presentation and just explaining to them how Medicare works. It's been unbelievable since then, the amount of those individuals that have now reached out and want to start, connecting us with their clients. They're beginning to view us as the experts in what we do, which we are and we should be. And so I think a lot of what I've tried to do is just figure out how can I position myself as that expert. We've gotten involved with local HR organizations. So we have an organization called Michiana HR Association. SHRM is another one, the Society of HR Managers. I never thought that would be very lucrative, but you start working with HR professionals who are dealing with people who are approaching age 65 and they're getting a lot of questions and they have no clue what to do. So you can become a subject matter expert in those particular areas with those individuals. There's just a lot of different things that you can do to begin to build this, this referral base. And I think it all starts, to your point, Cliff, though, with tracking it. Knowing how many, every one of you should be able to tell me how many how many referrals did you bring in last year? And then I use that even with my clients. I tell them when I'm meeting with them, I meet exclusively with people who are referred to me. And I think it helps perpetuate the fact that they are an elite group, because they had the opportunity to sit with me because they were referred, right? So Tom Sandlin used to say this, you'll probably remember it, Rick, take them out of the general public. When you're working with clients, make them feel unique and special. And that's something that I've kind of embraced. And so that's another way you can do it. Help them feel a part of this elite group of people that were actually referred to you. And that's how they even got a seat at the table with you. So those are all thoughts and ideas, and there's a lot there, but hopefully that's what you were looking for, Cliff.
Oh, those are huge. And what you're doing by doing some of what you shared there is you're educating other strategic partners in and around what you do and how you do it. It starts to separate you from your competition. So there's an educational component, but what you're doing also is you're creating referral moments. In other words, now you're on their radar. These are people that are dealing with customers and prospects and clients just like you are, but they're in a different discipline. Maybe they're a financial planner. But they're dealing with customers. They're dealing with clients. And now what you've done is you've created win-win moments with those people, with those strategic partners. What will that do? It will empower them to talk about you and your business in ways that they can get excited about and take part in. Without doing some of these things, they have no clue. So those educational, those seminars, those workshops, things like that you can do, it creates referral moments for you. So you're not always going to be just dependent on the cold leads or on those sorts of things. I get it. Getting started, you've got to every line in the water is what you have to do. And so how do you create those win-win moments? Well, Silas just mentioned a few, but you can create them through interview series or video clips, or you can do it through events that feature your logo, red carpet style backdrops that features your logo. You can do it through client appreciation events. So when you're specifically your customers. So once a year, twice a year, you bring your very, very best customers, your AAA, your platinum level customers, and you do an appreciation event. You bring that 25 or 30 people together and say, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the trust and confidence that you place in me as your agent, as your trusted advisor to handle these things. And we're continuing to grow and build our practice. Those are all opportunities for you to create win-win moments for that, for your customers. You're not going to do that with everybody, but your key customers, I would think you'd want to be doing that once or twice a year. And I'm sure a lot of you do that. Anybody have another thought or a question they'd like to add on that? Creating these referral moments, these win-win moments, things that you could do, workshops, seminars, client appreciation events, video clip, anything else come to mind? Anybody doing anything else?
I would say something. I can definitely say something and add on to it. I would say your reputation is the most important too, because you're representing yourself. Your people are trusting you, and you're marketing yourself as well. But reputation has always been the most. And then, like you said earlier, influencing people. What are you talking about? What are you introducing them to? Are they new? Do they trust you? Do they feel like they are excited to sign up, or what else do they want to know? Things like that as what I keep and maintain.
That's great, Lewis. Great feedback. Anybody else have a thought or a comment?
In the chat box, Michelle said, I'm working on mailing out 2025 calendars to all current clients. And I think through this too, I just think it's multiple touch points, right? Even referral partners, they'll forget about you if you don't keep your information in front of them. And so one of the things that I have not yet done, but I want to do in 2025 is these centers of influence. I want to get them on an email distribution list where maybe quarterly, but I'm just putting something of value in front of them that might help them in some way. It's again, just positioning yourself as that subject matter expert and as the resource, because if you're not constantly in front of people, they will forget about you.
Yeah, that's great, Silas. Rick, do you have any other thoughts, anything to add as it relates to any of those referral moments or those win-win moments? Anything else come to mind that?
Well, again, I'm of the same mindset. You've got to be out there, and you got to be out there everywhere. It helps create the referrals, right? So it really is about a layered marketing effect and making sure that, everywhere somebody looks, they see you. It just adds to the referrals. And then, I love, what Silas said. If you're not taking your business and owning every part of it to the point of, I know how many referrals, I know who the referrals were. I've made comment to those people that referred to me. That's what's going to help really build your business long term. And I think the beauty of this right now, talking about this today, January 8th, is we're at a great start. We're at a beginning point of a new year. What do you want your business to look like 12 months from now? And what we need to do is to start, changing whatever we want to change, and do that now. Get it started. Don't wait for the next thing. Get on that business now. Get it ready. Open enrollment should just be a piece of your business. Quite honestly, if you look at it, most of our top agents do more business during the rest of the year than they do during open enrollment. Sometimes for some of them, it's kind of a pain because they have to just speed up and they don't get the time to take with their clients. But those of you that kind of ran through open enrollment, use this as your opportunity. Get back in front of those people, right? And gives you a lot of opportunity as well as referral opportunities. So,
Yeah, that's great.
I also think something that can be done right now is we've all just obtained or helped hundreds of clients, right? Most of us have. So handwritten thank you notes, not only to the clients, but to the people that referred them to you. We keep track of that as well. So anytime a referral comes in and we make a sale, we're sending 2 thank you notes. One is to the person that was a new client, but one is to the person who referred them to us, with a couple of business cards. Mine simply says, I want to thank you for your business and ask for your referral. If you know of anyone else that I can help, I hope you'll pass my information along. Very simple, but I do think that goes a long way. Handwritten notes, not many people get those anymore, and that definitely separates you.
It's huge, because you have to break preoccupation to do it. In other words, if I'm going to send a handwritten note to Gary Boberhoff thanking him, I've got to break preoccupation to do that. I've got to think about what I'm going to write, Gary. I've got to get my note card. It's going to have my logo and my name on it. And I've got to think about what I'm going to write in that note. And then I've got to address it and put it in the mailbox. When he receives that, he's blown away, because we've gotten away from these things, these personal touches. So most of the time, where are you going to spend your time? You're going to spend your time immersed in your business, working in your business. But the very, very best also step out of that circle, and they spend a certain amount of time working on their business, their craft, their trade, sharpening the saw. And it as Rick said, what do you want this to look like a year from now? Well, there's a great book, and most of you have heard of this book. Stephen Covey's, it was a bestseller, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Well, rule number 2 is begin with the end in mind. So if you look at that book, and rule number 2 is we have to begin with the end in mind. So as Rick said, what do you want this to look like a year from now? Most successful people start with a vision of what they want this to look like a year from now. And so you have to know what success looks like and where you want to end up. I'm going to call on Gary real quickly here, because he's built a practice, and I'm sure he didn't start this way, but he's built a practice over 20 years, or maybe 20 years plus, based on 100% referrals. And so do you have a thought or a comment on how you got, for some of the newer people, you didn't start there, or maybe you did start there.
I'm a newbie, Cliff, only 17 years.
17.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I started out buying leads and all of that kind of thing. And then going back to what I think Ronnie said earlier, is you got to create the perception that you're successful and that you're busy. Even if I had no appointments, I would give them a morning, an afternoon, or an evening, and set the time so that it didn't sound like, yeah, I've got nothing better to do. I can meet you anytime, anywhere. So you don't ever want to be that guy or that gal. But as far as referrals, I think you have to be referable, and you have to give them an experience that they weren't expecting. So my gift, or my idea always is give them more than what they're expecting, and do more for them what they were looking for. And that creates value. And if you create value and empathy, I think, then you're going to get referrals. But yeah, we got 895 referrals this past year. Goal was to get to 900, so I failed miserably. But having said that, probably the best tool I've had for referrals recently is the Lolo gift. I do it's $1.50 a client. You put them on a spreadsheet, they get an email and a text with a gift. It's a free loaf of bread at the local bakery. It's a free beer at Founders or something different every month. So I'm in front of these referral sources 12 times a year. And it's very inexpensive when you look at it. The other thing is everybody leaves with a purple ink pen with my name and phone number on it and Health Markets logo.
Yep.
So when they come back for a review a year from now, they've got that ink pen in their pocket. So they don't have to search for my phone number if they're going to give my name out to somebody else.
That's awesome. And so the gift for the broader audience here who, you know, we're learning and we're growing together. That's what I love about these things. It's so important to that it's that touch point. So are you giving those gifts 12 times a year to customers, or are you as well as strategic partners or COIs, or who's getting those gifts?
Anybody who gives me a referral will get that gift, and they're on there for 12 months, and we update it every month. So we track our referrals based on my calendar. So my calendar will say Tom Smith is coming in, referral of Jim Jones. So all we do is sort a Google Calendar by the word referral, and then we can see who the new referrals are that month. And then we add them to that list. And there's Lolo service is in most cities across the country. It just stands for a local business. So you're referring somebody to a local bakery or a local coffee shop or local something like that.
So what happens after 12 months? They have to refer again in order to be on that list again to receive?
Yeah, like I said, we update it every month. So we take off 13 months ago, we add on. So it's a fluid list. It moves.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. I think we'll wrap up here in a second, but what's so important is to create a roadmap. So when you're getting into a new year, you're creating your roadmap, and that roadmap should have checkpoints along the way to make sure that you're tracking towards your desired end goal. And so what you want to do is you want to set data-driven benchmarks, and you want to measure your progress on a consistent basis. So what are your goals? What are your objectives for this year? What are your commitments? How many new customers and clients do you want to bring in? How many referrals? Where are those referrals coming from? What are they going to receive? What is that referrer going to receive from you if they refer you to someone that becomes a customer? All of those things should be in your master plan for 2025. It creates a roadmap, and then have the checkpoints along the way to make sure that you're tracking towards those. Again, begin with the end in mind. And you want to have data-driven benchmarks. Be very, very specific. We all get good at what we measure. And so you want to have very specific benchmarks that you're measuring against your goals and objectives as you run through this year. And if you do those things, and if you have the discipline to stay the course and understand the importance of accountability, you're gonna have a great year. You're gonna have a great year. I know all of you are, but those things are so important. So I'll kind of end there. But if anybody has another question or a thought or a comment, we can wrap up with that, Rick and Silas. And if not, we're bumping up against the top of the hour here. But anybody have a closing thought or a comment or a question?
One quick comment is when you run your schedule tight, you can put on your calendar a 3-hour session that you can really spend time doing these things. I think a lot of people don't end up tracking because they don't have the time to do it because they're not setting aside time to do it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I found to be useful. Otherwise, I just never got around to it. If I started working on something, then my client's here early, I spend 30 minutes. But if I can run tight on my clients, I can have a 3-hour block of reviewing business, sending referral cards, thank you cards, those kind of things.
Ronnie, that's huge, because the best of the best, they're not just immersed in the whirlwind of their day job. They're also carving out time, and they're intentional about carving out time to work on the business. All the things you just said there, I think that's critical, because otherwise you'll fill your day every day and you'll just be immersed in the whirlwind, and you'll never get around to some of the other things that are really important as you continue to grow and build your business. So that's great commentary. Silas, anything else for the good of the cause?
No, I think this has been great. This has been a great discussion. Thank you to everyone who engaged. I just encourage you guys, come with questions, come with comments, come with concerns, things you want to discuss to these sessions. I know Cliff wants it to be interactive, and Rick and I do too. So we'll plan to see you 1 month from today. Hopefully you can all engage. If you're on my team, we're starting to put these on your calendar so you can accept the calendar invite so nobody books over the top of it. And I just hope you all have a great week here, finishing up the open enrollment season strong. And certainly if there's anything we can do to help, I know Rick's team and my team are here to help. So take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.